Welcome to Silverstone, where an incredible array of machinery has gathered for a festival of classic touring car racing. Formed back in 1974, the Classic Touring Car Club runs a variety of categories for cars of all shapes and size, spanning some 6 decades. In the pre-66 and pre-83 touring cars, true classics like the Mini Cooper, Lotus Cortina, Ford Falcon, Morris Minor and Vauxhall Forenza can all be found. The Group 1 Pre-83 division also includes a number of front-running Ford Escorts, including the number 81 car driven by Mark Chollerton. He's come back to racing this season for the first time since 2006.
This is a fresh year out, first year out after a 10-year absence. We've reshelled the car, so it's a new car this year, which has taken a little bit of getting used to, a little bit of setup. But I think we've just about got it right. Last race of the year. So with a view, hopefully, to come out next year and start putting some serious times together.
What's it like to drive? Because obviously there are no modern-day gizmos on this car, ABS, power steering, all that sort of thing's out the window, isn't it?
No, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it? You haven't got ABS, you know, what all you do in the car is what happens to the car. I mean, the Escort's fantastic. You just throw it into the corner, throw it sideways and sideways out of the corner. So yeah, always good.
What are your thoughts about the club as a whole, the Classic Touring Car Racing Club?
I've always liked the club. It's always been a friendly club. You know, you have a problem with your car, you've only got to ask your competitor for a part and he'll give you a part. You know, it happens time and time again. So, you know, the lads in the paddock are fantastic.
Another Escort likely to feature at the front is the Mark I of the reigning champion, the ever-spectacular Stephen Primmitt.
It's got up and sideways, this car, isn't it? But that's kind of the way the Escort handles, isn't it?
That's the way it works, mate, yeah. You turn it on the back end and but they're so forgiving and they just flatter you, so lovely to drive, you know.
How's the car been handling this weekend for you?
Yeah, she's really happy today around here. Seems to really like it, and I set my best ever lap time yesterday at this circuit, so pleased.
Not only are there some fantastic cars, but they're so well prepared, aren't they?
That's right. I mean, I love it because when I sit on the grid and look in the mirror and look around me, there's all the cars you love from the 70s, from your childhood. You know, the Forenzas and the Dolomites. You know, it's just great.
The race also features one of the most distinctive and powerful cars on the grid, this 5.7-litre, 450 brake horsepower Chevrolet Camaro.
I built it in 1989 and I run it in with the Racing Saloon Car Club that I used to be chairman of for many years, and since about 85 I've run it with the Classic Touring Car Club. First of all, I raced a Chevrolet Monza and it didn't handle too well, and I rode it off at Lyddon and I had all the bits, so my mate was doing well in a Camaro, one of these, so I thought I'll give it a go.
At the opposite end of the spectrum is the much less powerful but equally rapid Mini Cooper of Paul Inch.
I'm quite nimble through the corners. I can get through the corners and keep on through the corners and then lose me down that back straight, and yeah, back markers come into it a bit.
Does the small size of the Mini help at the start of the race when everybody's trying to find position through the first few corners?
Yeah, first 3 or 4 corners are very good. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
And there's some really experienced guys out there. I guess it's good to race against guys like that because you have to race close enough but be able to trust them as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have been doing this, you know, for 30, 40 years. Yeah, I thought I was old, but there's some really old ones here.
Another quick Mini is driven by Neil Bray. Neil lost his right arm in a Superstocks accident back in 1981, but was encouraged to come back to racing by his son Chris, a multiple MG Trophy champion. Neil has an artificial arm, but the sole modification on the car is a special ball on the steering wheel for when he quickly needs to correct the car. And according to the man himself, with the Mini, that can be quite often.
It's so much fun. I've never had a Mini that absolutely goes everywhere you don't want it to, sort of thing. I've never seen a Mini that I have to opposite lock on every corner, sort of thing, and it's incredible. It's super fun.
So the Mini's light and you can throw it around, but it's quite physical as well, is it?
It's very physical, and having the limited slip diff as well, it's very jumpy and jumps one way and jumps another. And when it's not going fast, it's very heavy, but once you're moving, it's not too bad at all. And I find I can handle it, sort of thing. They do get upset when I start waving at them if I go by, but one's got to try and wind them up the way one can, sort of thing. You know.
So it's the Jaguar XJS of Andrew Harrison on pole, having won the previous day's qualifying race. A bumper entry of 31 cars contesting either the Paul Inch Classic Race Engines Pre-66 division or the Group 1 Pre-83 category. The lights out, the race gets underway, and Andrew Harrison off to a good start from pole position in the Jaguar XJS. We go on board with him now as he goes up through the gears towards Abbey Corner for the first time in the race. Second place is going to be Mark Osborne, and then Jim McLaughlin's Ford Capri has moved ahead of Stephen Primmett's Ford Escort for third place. On board with Pornich now as he fires the Mini Cooper up the inside of Duncan Leftley's Alpha. The pair of them run side by side as they make their way out of the corner. Up ahead, we've got Simon Jeffs in the number 4. Alpha having an excellent start, making his way around the outside here of Alan Wayman in the Chevrolet Camaro as they all work their way through Village Corner. And also in the mix, you've got the 89 Ford Escort, the blue and white car of Stephen Yates. So it's Yates nosing ahead of the Camaro now. Paul Inch has come to join the party, look with the Mini and the onboard camera. There's a spin up ahead, that's William Jenkins in the BMW from 7th on the grid. They come onto the hanger straight, they go either side of the Ford Escort. The Camaro, look, has got Sirius Grunt in a straight line. At the end of the hanger straight, we got the lead 3 as we saw them. Then it is Primmett. Then in 5th place, it's Chollerton. He's got ahead of the number 40 Stephen Cripps Escort there, who slides his way around Stowe Corner for the first time in this race. This is the view back then from 5th position from Mark Chollerton in the 81 Escort as he goes back down the gears towards the final 2 turns of the lap. Then we've got this Skoda, wonderful looking car of Tom Abbott, being chased by the Morris Minor Bluebell of Andrew Cross, number 24, who gets very sideways and slides his way out of Stowe Corner. So here come the top 6 at the end of lap number 1. A couple of seconds back in 7th, Peter Winston in the Ford Escort Mark 1 is just ahead of Malcolm Jeffs' Alfa Romeo. And then it's Alan Greenhall in the Ford Falcon, the leading pre-66 car, as Stephen Primmitt in the number 1 Escort gets ever closer to the tail of Jim McLaughlin, who took him off the line for that 3rd place. Primmitt wants it back though. He's a man in a hurry. Look, the opportunity might arise here. The door opens up. Down the inside, he throws the Escort and back through into 3rd place at the link. Meanwhile, there's number 76, Neil Bray in the Mini. That's 4th in the pre-66 class at the end of the first lap of the race. Back on board with Stephen Primmitt, and the Capri comes back ahead of him. More grunt in a straight line then for Jim McLaughlin. So that was short-lived. So it is Andrew Harrison still leading in the Jaguar XJS. Around about a second clear now of the Triumph Dolomite Sprint of Mark Osborne. 3.6 litre Jaguar XJS, absolutely beautiful, resplendent here in the sunshine at Silverstone. And we're going to get a swap again for 3rd place here. On the brakes, down the inside, on the way to Vale goes Stephen Primmitt. The inside line is being held here by the Capri of Jim McLaughlin. Through Club Corner they come, still side by side, off the road, off the track goes Stephen Primmitt. The Capri still with its nose in front. He still hasn't given up yet though, as they make their way back up towards Abbey Corner. So a terrific example of wheel-to-wheel racing that was close. It was hard, but it was fair. And it's still McLaughlin with his nose in front. That has brought Chollerton a bit closer to the back of them, Luck, and he's bringing with him Stephen Cripps. Hold on to your hats, though. Another opportunity here for Stephen Primmitt. This time it is on the way into Village Corner, hard on the brakes, clipping the curb on the inside, and it looks like he's back through to 3rd spot. There, meanwhile, in 15th place, the Chevrolet Camaro of one of the most experienced drivers in the field, Alan Wayman. But it's David versus Goliath here, because Paul Inch in the Mini comes alongside him now, half the size, nowhere near the power, but of course he's nimble through the corners, and back in front in this little tussle he goes, and just behind them, that's going off the road there, Stephen Yates in the Escort. He was right behind them at the start of the lap. Here's a replay. We saw from the onboard of Paul Inch, and they're losing it coming out of Farm was the Escort, but he kept his foot in on the front-wheel drive car and didn't lose too much time. Just a few places lost then for Stephen Yates. Back on board with Paul Inch, and guess what? The Camaro comes back ahead of him in a straight line with its 450 brake horsepower. At the head of the field, the Jaguar of Harrison pulling away. All the other positions in the top 6, though, are still very tight as we look back to Stephen Cripps from the onboard of Mark Chollerton. There they are, running in 5th and 6th, still absolutely nose to tail. Nothing between these two drivers. All their cars having a terrific dice here. The red Vauxhall Forenza Droop Snoot of Mostyn Rutter is up to 9th place now, right behind him in 10th. And that is the Ford Falcon of Alan Greenhall, who continues to lead the pre-66 division. He's followed by the Rover P6 of Nick Strong, the Ford Capri of Mike Haynes, and with the onboard camera, the number 4 Simon Jeffs Alfa Romeo Alfa Sud. And a terrific move there from the Capri. It's gone down the inside of 2 to gain 9th place, 3 abreast further back. The Alfa Romeo Alfa Sud trying to get in on the mix here alongside the Rover P6 of Nick Strong. He gets his nose in front as well. So all sorts of battles going on further down the field. There is the number 42 Richard Woodford Volkswagen Golf Mark 1, an example of a modern classic that runs in the pre-83 division. One of 3 Morris Minors in the race, Patrick Harris, is being harassed by Paul Cooper's Ford Cortina Mark 1 GT. The Austin A40 of Luke Wilson just behind them. Back on board with the race leader, wrestling away at the wheel here of this XJS, and building up now a 3-second cushion over the Triumph Dolomite of Mark Osborne, which is being reeled in here by Stephen Primmitt. Further back, there's a three-way tussle now for 4th place, but Primmitt's put a really strong lap in here. He's bridged the gap to the second place car. Primmitt was 9/10 of a second quicker on that previous lap. Meanwhile, we go back to this three-way tussle between the Ford Cortina of Paul Cooper, which has got its nose in front. And then you've got Patrick Harris, Morris Minor going wheel to wheel here with Luke Wilson in the Austin A40. Wilson trying to come around the outside of him, but the Morris Minor stands strong and holds the line through Stowe Corner. There are 7th and 8th. The Alpha Sud of Malcolm Jeffs trying to bridge the gap back to Peter Winston in the Ford Escort, who was a bit quicker on the previous lap through Farm Curve and down towards the braking zone to Village, so the gap comes down again. The Droop Snoot of Mostyn Rutter still running in 9th place, but with a bit of smoke coming from the back of the car, slightly worryingly. The Ford Capri of Mike Haynes pulling away now from Pre-66 leader Alan Greenhall. Then it's the Rover P6 of Nick Strong, and just behind him, second in the Pre-66 class, David Hall in the number 57 Ford Lotus Cortina. Third in Pre-66 with the onboard is Paul Inch in the Mini. Then you've got behind him the number 41 Duncan Lefley Alpha Sud, and the recovering Steve Yates in the Ford Escort after his spin earlier on. Time for us now, though, to head for a break. Welcome back to our festival of classic touring car racing here at Silverstone. The Pre-83 and Pre-66 race is being led by Andrew Harrison in the Jaguar XJS. He started the race on pole position. Second place is the black Triumph Dolomite of Mark Osborne. He started on the front row, but he's being reeled in at the moment by Stephen Primmitt, who is 3/4 of a second to a second a lap quicker. Jim McLaughlin in the Capri was briefly in 3rd place after a very good first couple of laps. He's there in 4th place with Mark Chollerton's Ford Escort just behind in 5th. Coming up to the traffic then, lapping some of the older Pre-66 division cars, and the Dolomite there goes one way, the Ford Escort with the onboard Stephen Primmitt goes the other. This the battle for second place. They are going past Luke Wilson's Austin A40 and Patrick Harris's Morris Minor, who've been duelling throughout the course of this race. And Andrew Harrison and the rest of the front runners are going to have a lot more traffic to deal with between now and the end of the race. This then the battle for 7th place, which has been raging on all the way through. Malcolm Jeffs with the onboard, the Alpha on the tail now of Peter Winston's Ford Escort Mark 1. They come up towards the right-hander at Abbey Corner. In the background, an increasingly smoky Mostyn Rutter in the red Vauxhall Forenza Droop Snoot. And now we go back to the battle for second place, closer than ever before. The Dolomite runs out wide onto the hanger straight. Mark Osborne, I think, is about to concede second place here to Stephen Primmitt. There is the Ford Falcon of Alan Greenhall, which leads the Pre-66 category. And there is the Lotus Cortina, number 57, David Hall, gaining a place on the Rover P6 of Nick Strong. They're in different categories, but a place gain nonetheless. The Alpha of number 4, Simon Jeffs, takes advantage of that, gets a better run coming out through Farm Curve. He's getting stuck in the action as well. So there is David Hall in the Lotus Cortina. He's second in Pre-66. Whipping around the outside of him, though, with a terrific run through those set of corners, is the Alpha of Simon Jeffs. He may have just about the oldest car in the field, but still running 5th in the Pre-66 division is the number 3, Tony Preston, Morris Minor. And he's soon to be lapped by the new second place car of Stephen Primmitt. There he is in the number 1 Escort, already beginning to pull away from Mark Osborne's Triumph Dolomite. We're into the closing stages here at Silverstone. There's Mike Haynes in the Capri running in 10th place, 11th Alan Greenhall leading the P66 division, and a brilliant recovery here up to 12th place for William Jenkins in the BMW CSL. He had a spin right at the start of the race and dropped to the back of the field. At 57, David Hall going through, shot second in the Lotus Cortina in the Pre-66 division, and there is another Cortina, Paul Cooper, in the process of being lapped by Nick Strong in the Rover and the Simon Jeffs Alfa Romeo Alpha Sud. In terms of the Pre-66 division, it's still Paul Inch who's on for the final spot of the podium. 4th is the other Mini there of number 76, Neil Bray, although he's having a real battle here with the number 99, David Margale's Alfa Romeo GTV6, which whips around the outside of him at Stowe Corner. About to be lapped by the Ford Falcon, having one of the most entertaining battles of the race. Luke Wilson in the Austin A40 and Patrick Harris just behind in the number 90 Morris Minor. They've been locking horns all the way throughout this race. Here's the view into Abbey Corner on board with Paul Lynch, then third in the pre-66 division in the Mini. Right behind him now, Stephen Yates in the Ford Escort RS 1600, continuing his recovery drive after a brief spin early on, coming out of this section of the course. On the brakes, then down into Village Corner. And here comes Yates, showing his nose around the outside here, just about fitting through the corner. No, he runs out wide over the curbs, off the road, gets the inside line though for the left-hander and nips back in front, but that's still third place in pre-66 for the Mini of Paul Lynch, because it's a pre-83 car that's just overtaken him. There's Mark Chollerton, number 81. Still hot on the heels of the Capri of Jim McLaughlin for fourth place. But here is the race leader, Andrew Harrison, who has controlled things from the very beginning of this race. It's a big, heavy car to wrestle round here, and he's had all the traffic to deal with as well as the leader. Closing him down for the last couple of laps through that traffic has been Stephen Primmitt. The gap is less than 5 seconds now as Stephen, for the final time, makes his way down towards Vale, laps the Keith Wright Morris Minor, and there we see that Chollerton is still in 5th place in the Escort. His best chance might have gone now to get ahead of McLaughlin. There is the race leader, and he's got traffic coming out of the final turn here. Luke Wilson and Patrick Harris just ahead, having their own battle, but he makes it to the checkered flag. Not too far behind him, Stephen Primmitt comes home in 2nd place, and Mark Osborne completes the podium. Jim McLaughlin holds on to 4th place by just 0.2 of a second from Mark Chollerton, and Stephen Cripps is 6th.
First 2 laps, cold tyres, heavy car, slides everywhere, and I was watching the mirrors for Mark, because give him an inch and he'll slip through. That car is so agile. But once we got warmed up, yeah, you can unleash the power, get away. It's a question then of just running and not losing your concentration.
The car's got plenty of straight line speed, but power to weight ratio, so a lot of the other cars around you have actually got a higher ratio.
It's true. If you start looking at the straightforward mathematics in terms of low end, they actually out-accelerate you in some places. Where it counts, of course, is the big straight where above about, I'd say, 80-90 mile an hour, the Jag starts to stretch away. And that's your golden ticket here. You can escape the hanging straights long enough.
And victory in the Paul Lynch Classic Race Engines pre-66 Saloons goes to Alan Greenhall from David Hall and Paul Lynch.
It's always very busy at the beginning because with the power we've got, I can get off the line quickly and get in front of the pre-80s or some of the pre-83s, and of course they're all flying past me in the corners and they're all over the place. So you know, it's a question of I need a lot of room. It's a bit like steering a ship. You know, I had to turn in about 100 yards before they do, whereas this thing is all about, you know, flow and drift and trying to get the power down from the engine onto the tarmac.
Up next, some more modern classics with a race that features an eclectic mix from 4 different categories. The Bilstein Classic VW Cup, the Toyo Tyres Honda VTEC Challenge, the Burton Power Blue Oval Saloon Series for Fords, and the Hammerite Classic Thunder category for pre-2011 modified saloons, where the Escort Cosworth of Dave Cockle starts as one of the favourites.
I started racing in 2009. I predominantly done track days from 1994 when I first had, not that Escort Cosworth, but I had another Escort Cosworth, mid-90s. Just did track days, and then 2009 I started racing in the Euro Saloon Championship. It's an ex-tarmac rally car that I converted a long time ago now. It's just evolved over the years into what it is today.
Going well in the VTEC Challenge is Chris Sparks, who only this season stepped up from track days to the more frenetic world of wheel-to-wheel racing.
The first race, it was like nothing else. When you go into a corner, you've got cars around you for the first time. You're not used to that with track days. But you get there in the end and you get your confidence up as the year goes on.
I guess that pulls you along as well, doesn't it? And develops you if you're around quick drivers.
It does. My driving's got quicker all year, just chasing other cars. You brake a bit later to chase a car, or you get a bit quicker, carry a bit more speed. So yeah, it does. It develops your driving.
So we have a huge combined entry of over 40 cars, headed by the Impreza of Dale Gent and the Escort Cosworth of Dave Cockle. Then it's the BMW of Gary Whittaker and the Sierra of Steve Scott, while Steve Putt's Mazda and James Mumbray's BMW complete the top 6. So it will be a rolling start for this one. Dale Gent to the left of your picture is the pole sitter. Dave Cockle alongside. The field still streaming out through Vale and Club Corner, but the red lights go out, the race gets underway, and Dale Gent leads the charge towards Abbey Corner for the first time in the race, looking back from Dave Cockle's car as he gets out of shape going into Abbey under braking. Somebody else has a lock-up as well. Still they stream over the start-finish line here, and further back a tremendous start for the blue Golf of 303. Robert Gillam, one of the contenders in the Bilstein Pre-03 VW Classic Cup. You see him streaming past Andrew Mitz's onboard camera as the field work their way through Village Corner for the first time in the race. On board board with Richard Chipchase now, as he gets right under the tail of Simon Sheridan's blue Honda Civic. Andrew Mitzi, the slightly darker blue car there, is in the mix as well, and just ahead of them is the Ford Fiesta of number 63, Alexander Tate. Mitzi has a look up the inside on the way into the link. This leads them back onto the Grand Prix circuit, onto the hangar straight. Just ahead is Brad Kaler, Sayat Leon. Tremendous battle at the front of the field as well for second place. The BMW having a big look there was Gary Whittaker. In fact, I think Gary was slightly ahead as they came onto the hangar straight, with Dave Cockle with the onboard camera there getting the place back. So back to second place for him, and this is a move from Dan Roberts Jefferson, the leader of the VW Classic Cup, moving ahead of Richard Ascom's Jaguar XJR, both of them running in the top 10. From the back of the grid, 141 there is Ben Griffiths, who had a DNF in the qualifying race yesterday. That's him making a move on Chris Moham's VW, so he's already up into the top 30. But at the end of lap number 1, it's Dale Gent leading from pole position, Dave Cockle in second place, Gary Whittaker slipping back in third, coming under attack now from Steve Pudd in the Mazda, who has climbed from 5th to 4th already. He's trying to get himself on the podium, has a look at the inside on the way to Abbey, left-hander coming up at Farm Curve, flame spitting out of the back, and this with the move on Brad Kaler's Seat is the onboard camera of Andrew Mitzi. He gets fully alongside through Abbey, but again the problem is it's a left-hander that follows through Farm Curve. Ben Griffiths 141 has moved ahead now of the sister car of Andy Smith, number 139, continuing this terrific first lap from the back of the grid. We ride now with Chris Sparks, the leader of the VTEC Challengers. Passing him is Dan Roberts Jefferson, so that's the leader of the VW Classic Cup, passing the leader of the VTEC Challenge, both running well in the top 10. And there is Steve Putt's Mazda, this time finding a way past into the right-hander at Stowe Corner. He goes a bit wide on the exit though, but he should have that third place sorted from Gary Whittaker. Andrew Mitzi now on Simon Sheridan. These two keep trading places. Little thumbs up there as he comes past on this long run down into the right-hander at Stowe Corner. There is Mitzi, there is number 19 Sheridan, a good clean pass between the two Honda protagonists. All this overtaking, over 40 cars on the grid, but still haven't seen any contact. Tremendous driving from everybody involved as we look at Dave Cockle hanging on here to the tail of Dale Gent. Dale has been a runaway winner at times this season, but Dave giving him a run for his money here. Third and fourth still close together, as well as Gary Whittaker, the very experienced BMW driver, tries to get back onto the overall podium, and that's Dan Roberts Jefferson with the onboard in the VW, finding a way past David Howard for 8th place. So the Jaguar slips back. You've got Chris Sparks just behind him, then the 47 Jaguar of Richard Ascom, the maroon-coloured car, all of these running on the tail end of the top 10. So Dan with an excellent move there, as we see now number 145, Steve Scott, battling for 5th place with, from the back of the field, the number 9 car of Mike Hibbert, the BMW, and a spin there for Chris Baker, or almost a spin. He controls it, swings it back the other way, then he does spin. So that's the escort of Chris Baker getting in stripe, and because they're so tightly packed, you'll have to wait an eternity for there to be a gap in the traffic. As we look now from Richard Chipchase's Honda Civic, he's one of the drivers hoping to be in the podium in the VTEC Challenge. There is one of the drivers from the Burton Power Blue Ovals, the Ford Escort of Martin Reynolds, one of the older cars in the field there, number 27, beautifully prepared car. And there's Chris Sparks then running at the moment in 10th place, holding on to the lead of the VTEC Challenge, sandwiched between two Jaguars. Second best of the Hondas is Andrew Mitzi, who now fires one down the inside of Brad Kaler's Seat. There the two of them are making their way through Stowe Corner. That was a late braking manoeuvre. He carried a lot of speed through the turn, but the Seat starts to come back at him on the exit now. Left-hander coming up. In fact, a left-right through Vale and then Club to lead back onto the start-finish line. And down the inside comes the Seat. He goes a bit deep into the corner, though, on the curbs. If he can hold the line, he'll be all right, though, through the right-hander at Club. He does that, then he goes out wide on the exit to the turn. So Andrew Mitzi gets almost into the right corner of him, but the Seat just has a little bit more speed coming out of the corner to hold the position. Mitzi still second in the Hondas, though, from Richard Chipchase, third in the category. There are the two leaders. There on his own now in third place is the 7-litre Mazda RX-7 of Steve Putt. Behind him in fourth was the Holden Monaro of Andrew Wilson. So what about Gary Whittaker, as Ben Griffiths gains another place, this time on Andrew Mitzi, and they both went past the stationary car, which looked BMW-shaped. It might well have been the car of Gary Whittaker. It is! Gary Whittaker has stopped. He was running in fourth place. That is at the end of the hangar straight. Meanwhile, further back, we got the VW Beetle of Steve Rowland going nose to tail here with Nick Penfold in the 307 VW Golf. These two having a terrific scrap. Battles wherever you look in the race. And the view back from our second place car, Dave Cockle, as the Escort Cosworth weaves its way through the traffic now, through the back markers around the Silverstone International Circuit. Terrific drive up through the order then for Mike Hibbert, number 9. And again, a very experienced BMW driver here in the Classics. There we have 5th and 6th, nose to tail now. 6th place being the 199 James Mumbrey BMW. He's onto the tail now of Steve Scott's Ford Sierra Cosworth. He looks to the right, the line is covered. He goes left, he goes right again. Still the line is covered on the way to Village Corner. It's a battle that looks set to run and run as we head for a break. Welcome back to Silverstone as we continue our second race here at the Classic Touring Car Festival, just outside the top 10. A terrific battle here between 63, the Ford Fiesta of Alex Tate in that group as well. You got Andrew Mitzi with the Honda just ahead of him. From the back of the grid is Ben Griffiths in the 141 Honda. A slow car there being lapped. I think it was Gary Whittaker's BMW, which is trying to get going again. Brad Kaler in the Seat makes a move at the inside of Ben Griffiths, and here comes then the Ford Escort of number 53, Neil Argrave, from the back of the grid. So Neil, who had a bad qualifying race yesterday, that's why he was so low down the grid, is charging through the pack. He's potentially on course for a top 3 in the Burton Power Boss class as well for Blue Oval Saloons for the Fords. Up the inside of Ben Griffiths he comes. Can he get Brad Kaler as well in the Seat? Almost 2 for the price of 1 into the right-hander at Abbey Corner. His next real target, if you like, is going to be Alex Tate in the Ford Fiesta, who runs in the same class as him. As we go back on board with Andrew Mitzi taking advantage of the delay to Ben Griffiths, who's lost another place here. Mitzi very quick through the corners, gets alongside the Ford Escort as well, and noses in front. Left-hander coming up though, and back alongside him comes Neil Argrave in the Ford Escort Mark II, but the right-hander coming up favours the Honda, so back through he comes. And then involved in all of this as well, you've got Robert Gillen now firing his way potentially into a top 10 place here to move ahead of Richard Ascombe's Jaguar. Absolutely breathtaking stuff here. Ben Griffiths has got plenty of ground in a straight line, so he gets back ahead of Mitzi. The Ford Escort gets more straight line speed as well. He comes back down the inside of everybody into the right-hander at Stowe Corner, but it's through the corners, through the twisty bits, when Andrew Mitzi is able to use his skill to close them back up. Charging now then back towards the Silverstone wing, on the brakes for the left-hander at Vale, and just to mix things up a bit more, the race leaders are now lapping them in this battle. So that's Dale Gent, the overall race leader, and the Subaru Impreza, who leads from Dave Cockle's Ford Escort Cosworth, but only by a few seconds. Here is Dave, in fact, working his way through the traffic, so this might be an opportunity for Dave to try and close the gap to the race leader as he charges through, and you can see just how close it is now. We're approaching 2/3 race distance, but still Dave Cockle can see the tail end, that rear wing on the Impreza. Lapping now Brad Kaler's Seat just in time for the right-hander coming up at Village Corner. Just behind all of this, having a slightly more tranquil run, is Jason Evans, number 404. He is 5th in the VTEC category in that Type R, as the black Mazda RX-7 of Steve Putt, 3rd overall, puts a lap on the number 22 Ford Fiesta of Chris Brown, who's been one of the front runners in his class all throughout the course of the year. As we get a spin from inside the top 6, that's James Mumbrey's BMW, just kissing the wall there as he skewed across the track. And he'll get going again. I don't think he'll have too much damage. He managed to knock most of the speed off before he made contact with the pit wall, but that must have been a hairy moment on the exit to the turn. He got on the curbs, got out wide, oversteered through the corner. He's standing on the brakes here, and just with the front right corner, kisses the wall. Hopefully the suspension will be okay. Back on board with Andrew Mitzi in the number 484 Honda Civic, as just ahead Ben Griffiths in the Accord gets at the inside of the Fiesta of Alex Tate, who could wrap up the overall Classic Championship title here with a good result. Down the inside of him then comes Andrew Mitzi, and there is a big blow up here, I'm afraid, for Steve Scott's Ford Sierra Cosworth. Smoke belching at the back of the car. That was running in a top 6 position, and it engulfs everybody at Stowe Corner and creates a cloud of smoke. So he is, I'm afraid, out of the action, as we see the RX-7 now of Steve Putt here, running 3rd overall, 3rd in the Hammerite Classic Thunder category, having a fairly calm run. He's not in touch with the 2 leaders, but he's well clear of the Holden Camaro in 4th place now of Andrew Wilson. That's Ken Lark's VW Corrado, which is running inside the top 10 overall. And there is the battle then for 4th place. The Holden Camaro to the left of your picture has been caught now by the rapid Mike Hibbert, who fires one around the outside at Abbey Corner. Terrific move there. He carried a huge amount of speed And it's almost as close for 6th place. That's 32 Martin Davis in the Ford Sierra up against 329 Dan Roberts Jefferson. So it's the leader of the Boss category up against the leader of the Bilstein VW Classic Cup. Number 70 has got going again, Gary Whittaker. He was running in the top 3 for a while until the car stopped, but at least he's now running to the checkered flag. And here's a look at the VTEC Challenge leader, Chris Sparks, who is gaining ground on the 155 Jaguar XJ12 of David Howard. They're in 10th and 11th, respectively. This midfield gaggle then comes through. Andrew Mitzi, not for the first time in the race, gets alongside Brad Kaler's Seat Leon, who goes out wide. Alex Tate just behind them, playing a watching brief in the Ford Fiesta. It's going to be all guns blazing down towards Val Corner once again. And once again, Brad Kaler, who's very good on the brakes there, gets down the inside. Mitzi closes the door before the Fiesta comes through, and they go on to fight again, coming onto the straight. There is the 4th place car of Mike Hibbert now, pulling away from the Holden Camaro of Andrew Wilson in 5th place. They put a lap on this battle here, which is raging on between about 10 cars. And there is Alex Tate running in the top 3 in the Ford category, the Boss category, right onto the tail of this man with the onboard camera, who in turn is now alongside David Howard's Jaguar, who leaves the door open coming into Village Corner. Mitzi knows he needs to get a move on, because just behind is the silver Honda Civic of one of his class rivals, Richard Chipchase, with just the Fiesta in between them now, as we get a replay of Simon Sheridan going off the road at the same part of the course, rejoining and doing a bit of Dukes of Hazzard there as he goes right over the curbs just behind Chris Brown's Fiesta. And Andrew Mitzi's Honda no match for the 5.5 litres of David Howard's Jag in a straight line, as the leader of the Burton Power Boss category, Martin Davis in the Sierra, laps 2nd in that category, Neil Hargrave in the Escort. Dan Roberts Jefferson on course for victory in the VW Classic Cup, but the flag is out and it's gone to the overall winner, Dale Gent. He wins by just over 6 seconds from Dave Cockle. 3rd place going to Steve Putt, Mike Hibbert, Andrew Wilson and James Munbray round out the top 6.
Dave kept you honest all the way through in the Escort, didn't he?
Yeah, he was up there. He was keeping me on my toes. He was. I have to look at my mirror a bit more than I have done this year. It was good though. I enjoyed. That's what I wanted. I wanted the pressure. I wanted someone making me work for it. I wanted to get some traffic, slow him up a little bit, but then in places it slowed me up, which made him get on closer to me and that. But fair play to the boys out there. They didn't get really in the way at all. We found a way through okay.
Dan Roberts Jefferson won the Bilstein VW Cup, while victory in the Burton Power Blue Oval Saloons went to Martin Davis from Neil Hargrave and new class champion Alex Tate.
It was really interesting, up there with the big boys at the front like Ken and Rob, you know, battling hard, and then just, you know, as the race goes on, just getting a little bit more kind of a bit tired in myself, because suffer from muscular dystrophy, so even though it's a 15-minute race, it is a long race for me, so especially battling that hard, so can't ask for more than that. It's been brilliant.
Our 3rd and final race of the festival features another mammoth grid, this time for pre-93, pre-03 and pre-05 classic touring cars. And starting on the 2nd row is the BMW of Carl Catliff, 3rd in the previous day's qualifying race.
What's the Silverstone International like as a track? Do you like the layout?
It's it's very good. It's a bit bumpy as you go from one side of the circuit over to the other. So in my car, I have to get off the throttle, otherwise I've got a good chance that I'll lose the control of the car. But it's very enjoyable going through the classic corners.
A 4th category in the race will be the Smart 4.2 Cup. They might not be the quickest cars in a straight line, but it's one of the most entertaining championships on the grid.
I always say to people, it doesn't matter whether you're driving a 911 on the limit or a smart car on the limit, you're on the limit. If you're 110% of the car's abilities, it's fun. Whether it's 60 miles an hour or 130 miles an hour, you know, you're on the limit. So you're hanging on for grim death, and you're trying to avoid the rumble strips and you know, keep it on the black stuff.
More than 40 touring cars spanning several generations line up for the final race of the day, with David Griffin's BMW on pole from Craig Jamieson's Ford Sierra Cosworth. Carl Catliff and Simon Ward just behind on row 2. Here we go then, red lights on, the revs rise, they go out, the race gets underway. It's a stuttering start for Dave Griffin's white BMW from pole position. It is a mega start though for the number 74 Neil Phil Potts Mitsubishi Starion, who's gone charging from 7th on the grid. There he is going around the outside of Luke Allen here, and that's going to put him up to 4th place. 3 places gained then into turn 1. It just about gets the car through the turn. And it looks like Craig Jamieson of the Sierras moved ahead of Dave Griffin for the lead of the race. There is Alistair Lindsay in the VW coming past Robert May's Toyota Corolla with the onboard. Then Andy Smith trying to get through as well. And in that gaggle, you got the blue Clio of Steve Barber, who's leading the Pre-05 category. On board now with the 141 car of Ben Griffiths, the Accord, onto the tail of David Howard's Jaguar, and then losing out to Ross Craig in the Honda Civic, who waves him forward. Follow me, he says. I'm afraid out of the race already, though. That's Craig Langley's Peugeot 206. Into Stowe for the first time. It's side by side for third place here. That is the Starion getting at the inside of Simon Ward's Astra. So another place gained for Neil Philpotts, and on board with Luke Allen. As coming past him is Carl Catliff, but Luke gets a better run coming out of the corner. He's got the better line for the left-hander coming up. The BMW, though, has a bit more grunt and gets through. Neil Bray, you've already seen running in the pre-66 category on the podium in his Mini. He's on for a podium in his MG this time, the number 76 MG, as Simon Horrobin goes underneath the number 1 Alan Palmer smart car to gain the lead of that category towards the end of lap number 1. So there, third and fourth then. From 7th on the grid, Neil Philpotts in the Mitsubishi Starion. Just behind, you got the BMW of Catliff there, and with the onboard camera, it is Luke Allen's Honda Civic sidebar trying to go around the outside now on the way to Village Corner. Tremendous battle and bottlenecking up. The Starion gets sideways as he gets on the throttle, and Simon Ward carries the speed around the outside. Pause for breath. Here's a replay of the start. Craig Jamieson getting off the line better than David Griffin. And further back, somebody else making a rocket ship start was number 123, AJ Owen. Looking back from Andrew Sheraton's BMW, Andrew made a good start himself, picking up 3 or 4 places off the line. But here comes AJ in the Honda Civic. Clutch problems yesterday meant he had to start at the back of the grid, but he came charging around the outside there, gained a 9 or 10 places before he got to the first corner, and he's one to watch. So there's your overall race leader, Craig Jamieson, who finished in 2nd place in the qualifying race. He's managed to pull away, though, already from David Griffin, yesterday's race winner in the BMW. On board with Ben Griffin now. He's had a good day in his Honda Accord. He's running in the top 10 again. There he is in the 141 car. And again, he's having a battle with Andrew Mitzi. They both took podium finishes in the VTEC Challenge earlier on. As we go on board now with this low fog light camera on Alan Palmer's number 1 smart car. He draws alongside Simon Horrobin, and coming after both of them is the black number 9 car of Daniel Turner. He gets in between, and is he going to come past? Yes, to the top of the group he goes. So Dan Turner goes from 3rd to 1st. Alan Palmer goes from 2nd to 1st and back to 2nd, and from 1st to 3rd is the orange Simon Horrobin Smart 4-2. The 3 of them absolutely together here. Simon making the best start, getting in the lead initially. We're going to get a replay from the perspective of Dan Turner now, as they went side by side. He got a better run coming onto the Angus straight, picked up the toe on Alan Palmer, and was committed then to the outside line for Stowe to get the lead of the race. So there is the new leader of the Smart 4-2 Cup as we head for a quick break. Welcome back to what's been a lively final race of the weekend so far for the Classic Touring Car Festival here at Silverstone. There's your race leader, Craig Jamieson, but he is being reeled back in by the BMW of David Griffin, who out-qualified him, but just lost the position off the line. On board with the Honda of Luke Allen in 6th place, and now whooshing past in the BMW is Ray West. That car started right at the back of the grid. So there's Carl Catliff running in 3rd. 4th is the Astra of Simon Ward. 5th after a really good start, but slipping back a little bit now is the Mitsubishi Starion of Neil Philpotts. And then you got Ray West in this bright yellow BMW, and then there is another one from the back of the grid, AJ Owen in the red and black Civic, getting ahead now of Luke Owen. So 2 drivers firing their way through. Meanwhile, here's Ian Weir and Steve Needham in 2 of the older spec 450 standard Smart 4-2 cars, having a good battle. They're coming up to be lapped by Carl Catliff in the blue BMW in 3rd, and now 4th place at the inside there into Abbey Corner. From the back of the field is Ray West. That's him moving ahead of the Astra of Simon Ward. 6th, 7th and 8th altogether as well as we go on board with Luke Allen. That is AJ Owen's red Honda getting up the inside of the Starion of Neil Philpotts, making sure he gets the place on the way into the right-hander at Village Corner. There is the Clio of our Pre-05 class leader, which is Steve Barber. He's onto the tail of the number 90 Simon Sheridan Honda, which is busy lapping the smart cars at the moment. And we've already had the change for 3rd. Ray West in the number 10 BMW ahead of Carl Catliff by the time they get to Stowe Corner. And then in 6th place from the back as well, AJ Owen, who leads the Pre-03 class. So the crowd have been treated to some fantastic racing here today at the Classic Touring Car Festival, organised by the Classic Touring Car Racing Club, as we look at Andy Smith in one of the pre-03 Honda Accords, teammate to Ben Griffiths, who's had a lively day as well. There is the Vauxhall Astra of Mark Finney and the Renault Clio of Josh Barber, son of Steve Barber, who leads the category. Josh is actually third in the class as well, so father first, son in third, in between them Neil Bray, as we look at Ross Craig in the Honda Civic having a good run here, and potentially on course for a class podium. On board with Ben Griffiths, who's closing up to the tail of the Jaguar of the very, very experienced David Howard now. They both run in the top 10 overall. They're second in the pre-05 categories, Neil Bray in the MG-ZR, just a few seconds behind that man, Steve Barber, looking for his first win of the season in the Renault Clio, and just making his way out through Village Corner now. As we go back on board with Ben Griffiths, who is suddenly going slowly down the Hanger Straight. There is Ross Craig coming past, and there is the reason why, a huge plume of smoke coming out the back of the Accord. After a class podium in the VTEC Challenge, I'm afraid the car is about to grind to a halt here. It looked like he was going to have another good run, but Ben is on his way to retirement, sadly. As we go back on board now with another Honda, this time it's the Civic of Luke Allen, gaining a place on Neil Philpotts in the Mitsubishi Starion, who made this mega start, go from 7th up into the top 3 briefly, but Luke Allen now, who's been chipping away at him for a while, has got his nose in front. The Starion slipping back and struggling for a bit of traction as well, so he's already dropped a couple of seconds back. He's already coming under fire from this man, James Tracy, in the Honda Civic, right onto the tail now of the Starion with the onboard camera. They brake, they go down the gears, they turn right through Village. Slipping and sliding here is the Starion, and with a better traction, a better run out of the corner and bravery around the outside, Tracy gains the place. And a big drift for Dan Turner, the leader of the Smart 4-2 Cup. On board with him now, it's going to kill his speed up the Hanger Straight. So Alan Palmer comes past to pick up the lead of the class in the number 1 car. We get a replay now from on board with Alan, who's just behind all of that. A big leery moment. He did well to keep it pointed roughly in the right direction, but it killed his acceleration. And Alan Palmer, who's on his way to the Class Championship in the Smart 4-2 Cup, just breezed past. There's the Honda Civic of number 484, Andrew Mitzi, making his way through the traffic, about to lap the Mark Bloomfield Smart 4-2 car. As out of shape again, this time at Vale is Dan Turner. He just about keeps the engine running, being lapped at the same time, and he was right back onto the case of Alan Palmer. Here's the review back from Alan. Alan had a big lockup, that's why. And so down the inside came Dan Turner, but he couldn't hold it. The back end slid around, and he then got into a half spin. So Palmer then pulling 2 or 3 seconds clear. There is Turner in the black number 1 smart car. David Howard has got close company from 2 Honda Civics here, just on the tail in the top 10. The green car is James Alford, Ross Craig just behind. Smoke coming from the back of the Neil Philpotts Starion, and he's got a puncture, a delaminated left rear tyre. So the car that was running in the top 6, I'm afraid, is no longer in contention. He pulls off the circuit. Just behind the Saab of Stephen Field, there is the class leader in the Pre-05, Steve Barber, and they're second in the class. Again, just a few seconds behind and working well through the traffic is Neil Bray. Josh Barber still third in the category in the other Clio. So they're third and fourth running through shot. The yellow BMW is Ray West. The dark blue BMW is Carl Catliff, and he's been caught now by AJ Owen, the leader of the Pre-05 class, from the very back of the grid. He looks at the inside of Carl. They go wheel to wheel, nose in front now for the Honda Civic. He's going to be the outside line for the left-hander up, but it doesn't matter. Through he goes to gain another place. Well, there have been some outstanding drives in this final race of the day. We go on board now with number 13, Robert May, running well in the Toyota Corolla. And in the background, oh, it's all gone wrong, I'm afraid, for Daniel Turner. He was at one point leading the Smart 4-2 Cup. He's had a few moments in this race, and this time he's well and truly buried in the gravel. That is at the exit to Abbey Corner, as the leader comes into sight with this replica livery in tribute to the Graham Good Cosworths that raced in the British Touring Car Championship in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Right, strap yourselves in. This is a replay of Dan Turner's moment, and he did his very, very best, didn't he, to wrestle with the wheel on the exit to Abbey Corner. But these cars can snap away pretty quickly, and he was a passenger into the gravel trap, I'm afraid. So it is looking more like a victory for Alan Palmer in the category, with Simon Horrobin second in the class in the number 13 Smart 4-2 Cup car. And then promoted up to third in the class is number 3, James Palmer, one of the men behind the championship. Here's the XJ12 of David Howard in 9th place, and then a trio of Hondas all trying to get a class podium here. Andrew Mitzi is just behind. The battle between Ross Craig, who's now back ahead of James Alford. There is Rob May running just outside the top 10 in his Toyota Corolla, and look at that for a bit of car controls. He drifts it through the right-hander at Stowe. Arriving rather more serenely, though, is our race leader overall, Craig Jamieson in the Ford Sierra Cosworth, almost home and dry now. On board with another BMW is Andrew Sheraton in the 56 325, squeezes past Rahim Baloo in the Peugeot 306 to gain position. Both of them lapping these two smart cars of number 2 Simon Coverdale and number 8 Alistair Woodhead, who have been tied together for the whole race. But the checkered flag is out, and the race win here at Silverstone goes to Craig Jamieson. It's a trio of BMWs, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, with Griffin, West and Catliff, Ward and Howard rounding out the top 6 in the Envirotech Pre-93 class.
The main thing is there's so much traffic out there, it works both ways, and I thought at some point it's probably going to play out that he'll catch me back up and might get in front of me, and I just thought there's no choice in a race like that. You've just got to go flat out and try and stay ahead through the traffic, and just hung on. You know, I was driving, there was nothing left in the car. It was absolutely flat out.
Luke Allen and James Tracy both make the Ori T-Man Pre-03 podium behind AJ Owen from the back of the grid.
We actually had a similar scenario at the beginning of the year here when we were on the GP circuit. I had a throttle position sensor fail, so we started 38th then when we were with the smart cars and the Pre-05. So what I did then is I just hanged it on the outside on the curb, run down the curb and went on the outside, and that worked then. So I lined up on the grid box, pointing towards the outside, and just thought that worked before, we'll give it a try. With Ray West as well, he come past me, and then luckily Ray made the hole for his own car, and then just keeping touching distance with him, and we were able to follow him through, and I think we got up to 4th or 5th overall in a 40+ car grid, so that was a brilliant job.
In the Toyota's Pre-05 class, Steve Barber, Neil Bray and Josh Barber were your top 3.
I think it's one of the hardest and determined wins I've ever had, because I've not had a win until yesterday all season. We had lots of problems with gearboxes and clutches, and the car keeps breaking down, but we've ironed them out, I think, now, and yeah, we're getting on the front, so hopefully good things for next year. And then my boys come 3rd as well, so father-son podium, it's brilliant, isn't it?
You listen to Dad though, Dad's got a fair bit of experience. Do you listen to him or not?
Sometimes, because sometimes not, because there is a couple of times that he does end in the gravel, so I don't always follow what he's advised. But he's been a good mentor, and I don't know, I'm just like, oh, we're doing it finally, we're getting there where we want to be.
Meanwhile, after a lively Smart Cars 4-2 Cup battle, it was Alan Palmer who came out on top.
A brilliant end to the season for me, winning the very last race, and I was leading coming into the final race of the championship, and now won the championship, so delighted, really pleased. And yeah, we're going absolutely 100% and having great racing. It's brilliant fun.
And that concludes what I hope you'll agree has been a terrific spectacle of classic touring car racing here at Silverstone. Thanks for watching.